It'll be another professional start as always. Oh,
It's all right. It's fine. So I got my monster because I'm shattered.
exactly that. See, right. Let's just start with this whole monster thing. Now, there is a coach that I follow on Instagram. She obviously doesn't drink coffee because every morning she has a monster with her oats. There's just something, I don't know why. I know it's caffeine and I know it's basically the same as drinking coffee, probably fewer calories when you factor in the milk. I just can't get my head around an energy drink like at any time between like 7 and 10.
Yeah, like 10. It's 7 minutes past 10. It's fine.
That's true.
But
yeah,
I have run out of caffeinated coffee, so
I
know, but I've been trying to kind of reduce my caffeine like consumption like a little bit more recently anyway, and this was actually like, we'll keep this in the podcast because it will kind of factor into that.
I think it massively will. I can see where this is going to go.
And like, for everyone listening, we'll start this now. We're going to be talking about kind of general anxiety around sort of life, social situations, and obviously like going into gym and things like that. And the reason I'm trying to kind of limit caffeine a little bit is because of that anxiety effect. And it, like I said before, like adding that fuel to the fire of anxiety. But I've been quite like fatigued recently as well. So I've been trying to kind of reduce caffeine consumption to see if that has any effects on that. Because, and obviously we know normal people, it does have effects of like when you start hammering caffeine, like it can have negative effects, and then you get like caffeine withdrawals if you start bringing it down. It's a whole palaver. Like I was saying to you before, like I've been kind of diagnosed with ADD, and sometimes caffeine doesn't have much of an effect on me. Sometimes it has a bit of an effect, but recently I've been having caffeine and feeling like I could fall asleep. So the complete opposite to what you would expect.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I'll get up, have a coffee in the morning, and
crazy.
I'm like almost falling asleep. So I've been sort of
kind of crackers.
Yeah. So I've been like, for a good while now, I've been limiting myself to kind of one caffeinated drink per day. I'll predominantly have like, because I like coffee, I'll have a lot of decaf coffee. Because I can't get rid of coffee. And if you have decaf coffee with beans ground to make, so that's good. Like it tastes like indistinguishable to like caffeinated coffee. It's when you get decaf that's pre-ground, it starts to kind of lose its potency. It tastes a bit weak. It's just a bit like nah. But if you grind the coffee, then make
welcome, ladies and gents, to the Physique Coaching Coffee Podcast. Coffee for the next 6 No, I'm kidding. No, I do get where you're coming from. I used to on really long days on the gym floor, like I remember going to literally sneaking into the Costa that's in the cinema complex at Dockside at like 7:45 before they shut to get a coffee, because I had another client from 8 till 9. And I think I used to do that and then sleep with no problems. But I think that was because just in general, I was so tired all the time and running on like 6 hours sleep. Yeah. That's why my head went, well, caffeine doesn't affect me. But I've always been really lucky in that I do drink quite a bit of coffee. Like I can have 2 or 3 in a day. But even if I don't have coffee for whatever reason, I've never really suffered any like withdrawal headaches or anything like that.
I don't really.
Yeah.
Which is quite nice.
Yeah, I just feel normal. The only time I really don't drink coffee is if I'm hungover. I can't cope. It'll be tea all the way.
Yeah.
No, there is something about it. And I've started and then I'm like, no, this is not working for me. So
I don't really drink tea. I never have really. It's always just been coffee. So
I'm a hot drink hoe. I'll drink them all. Not the first time I've been referred to as that this week, is it, Luke?
What, a hoe, or specifically a hot drink hoe?
No, a hoe in general. Anyway, overshare 101. Right.
Yeah.
Shall we get
Yeah.
started on
Yeah.
right. Hit us, Luke.
Okay, so like I said, we're going to kind of talk about anxiety in sort of general life situations. I was thinking about possibly kind of sharing some tips and things that we've kind of come across that might help. But the thing to remember with anxiety is it's very individual to the person and the situation. Something that is very triggering for one person isn't going to be for another person. It can be completely personal to the situation, like I say, and it can be things that a lot of people will have no kind of connection to because it's just normal life for a lot of people. And I can talk from experience here because like there's been plenty of situations, like I've gone to go to the supermarket and I've driven there, had a panic attack in the car, and just had this anxiety just about going into there. No specific reason to that. It's just come out of nowhere. Or I get a lot of social anxiety and have done in the past, kind of to a big degree, to the extent of there'll be an event coming up I've been invited to, and I would almost make myself sick or ill, like by sort of worrying, thinking about it, that I've kind of ended up being like, oh, I'm sick in bed, but I actually like I'm in bed, but I'm not really sick, but I've kind of thought myself into this state that, and then like, I can't go because of this reason. So it can be general day-to-day life that most people will think is silly, but it can come out of nowhere. And when we're talking about things as simple as going back to the gym, it's not a case of if you're new to the gym, you might have anxiety. Even people that are regular gym goers, like in this global kind of situation now, there might be people that will have this anxiety about going back to the gym because it's just come out of nowhere. There's no reason for it. It can just be this thing that kind of builds up into your head.
I've spoken to a lot of clients who have actually said that they're probably more anxious or nervous now than they were like the first time they ever stepped foot into a gym. And I think I'd class myself in that camp. Like I didn't go back to my previous PT home for the whole of last year, and I've done maybe 4 or 5 gym sessions in another gym, kind of having the ease of it not being where I worked, therefore nobody knew me, so I could just kind of slide in, get my workout done and slide back out again. But even now, like I'm excited, and I can say I am excited to get back into the gym, but oh holy crap, it makes me nervous. So like returning to life is making me nervous, and most people that know me would say that I'm quite outgoing. I'm very gobby. I'm quite opinionated.
Really? I did not know this. This is news to me.
And I think a lot of people would assume that for me, I'd just be, raring to go. But I found myself being really like non-committal with plans coming up. So my group of friends, we booked brunch in London, probably booked it when like we knew that restrictions were supposed to be lifted around the 12th. And I have said to them, obviously, yes, I'm going to go. But the closer it gets, the more I'm like, oh my gosh. Just silly things, the thought of being around people, public transport, just the extra pressure that I think that COVID and mask life has put on. It's wrecking my head a little bit. I'll be honest. So it was quite nice when we spoke about the idea for this podcast being like, actually, there are quite a few people that we know, and both of us, that for as much as we are looking forward to quote unquote normality, whatever that is, that we are also actively sharing that it's not all going to be super, super easy, and that we are actually a little bit nervy.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes with like the stigma of admitting that you're sort of nervous around these seemingly small events. And I think generally that COVID and everything that's going on has done wonders for allowing people to kind of admit this stuff more. Because go back 2 years, you said to someone, oh, I'm kind of a bit anxious about going to meet up with someone for lunch.
Yeah.
You would have got some strange looks and be like, what, why?
Yeah.
But there's no real difference. It's just more the fact that everyone else is experiencing this anxiety because of COVID. Whereas before it was the case of like general kind of more select few people with like not mental health issues, but struggling with their mental health at that kind of particular time, that were experiencing this anxiety, this nervousness around doing these different things. So I think it is definitely a positive aspect that in a way more people are experiencing this stuff, so we can get more recognition for it and hopefully be able to kind of understand it a little bit more as well.
Yeah, I think that's 100% true. Like I've struggled with anxiety, probably been aware of it for oh Christ, must be about 8 to 10 years now.
Yeah.
But before that, I used to be the first person to hold my hand up and be like, nah, got no mental health struggles. And it was my ex one day and went, you definitely suffer with anxiety. And I was like, no, you're kidding. No, me? No, but and then you look back and oh my gosh. I'm like, oh yeah, that was what that was.
Connect the dots.
Just, that feeling that I didn't really know what it was. And I am the worst social situations. And you know where mine manifests? And it's so sad. It's what I'm going to wear. And I can lay awake for hours in the lead up to an event, stressing about what I'm going to wear. Like I will mentally scroll through my wardrobe, scroll through outfits, and I'll be like, right, what do I think they're going to wear? But I never had this as a teenager because we used to go out. So I think we used to go out so regularly that we all kind of knew what the other one was wearing, and maybe an element of maybe a bit more body confidence back then, where I would happily chuck on, like me and the girls joke, we used to wear a vest top and a skirt on a night out. Like that for us was dressed up. But that was quite the fashion then. So put that on, you'd go out, you'd have your bag, you'd never have a coat, you'd never have a jacket, it wouldn't really matter. And I do that without thinking. I wouldn't stress about hair, makeup. Whereas I think now the world has evolved a lot more. We're doing a lot more shopping. There's a lot more attention, especially for women, on makeup, hair, etc. It compounds in my head to the point where I will lay there and feel my heart racing and maybe have to make a list of what I'm going to wear. And it winds me up and it winds my partners up because I am such a nightmare about it. And I'll ask their opinion. And I've been the same for, definitely the best part of the last decade. And I will ask their opinion, but I'll get obsessive about it. And then I get shouted at a lot. In a nice way, but basically told, chill out, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what anybody else is wearing. Go and be comfortable. And then you get on the day, you get the 4, 5, 6 outfit changes. It's exhausting. And it feels silly that that's often how my anxiety will manifest, to the point where I then won't want to go. And I will be, and my friends, if they listen to this, they'll be like, oh, this is why she never commits. And I don't. I very rarely commit to a plan. Yeah. Very rarely. I will say, yeah, maybe. Yeah, sure. And then they'll have to chase me on it. It's really weird. Oh, now I've just told them my secret.
Yeah, they're going to call you out on it now.
They are. They're going to be like, we know what's up with you. Behave yourself.
I think part of that even stems from two aspects. One's kind of like decision fatigue. You're trying to kind of make all these additional decisions. Obviously, where you're younger, you don't have as many choices and options. Like say it was a vest top and a skirt, so there wasn't that large variety of different options and overwhelm of choices. Whereas now you're older, you've got years of clothes that you've kind of built up, you've got money to buy more clothes, you've got money to buy different makeup, all this different stuff, that you have more options and choices and decisions to make, that it's just like overwhelm. It's like, well, what do I do? because there's all of this decisions I've got to make on top of your daily life, work, and making decisions for other people and choosing things that they've got to do, like training wise, that it gets to the end of the day and you're like, you're worn out. So it's all of these different things that kind of compound.
And do you know what?
And
until you said that, I'd never even thought of that. Literally until you said that, I didn't even twig in my head that actually could be why. Oh, good Lord, this is like therapy. I think I'll have to pay you for this podcast.
So I'll invoice you at the end.
Okay, perfect. So in like the specifics of, let's talk a little bit about the whole gym thing. So what have you found are like your biggest things to overcoming gym related anxiety? Is there anything that like even in your past has helped you?
So one key thing that kind of links into what I was just saying would be to have a plan of what you're going to do that session. Even if it is just that session, it doesn't have to be a full like periodized program. If it's just, okay, this session I'm going to go and do this exercise, this many reps, this rep range, whatever it is, you know what you've got to do. So you're not walking straight into there and being like, where do I go? What am I going to start with? I don't know. It's predetermined. You've got that plan in place. Because again, like it's something I've fallen into the trap of before in the past, because I think that I can just go to the gym and be like, oh, I'll put something together when I'm there. If I'm not on a plan already, I'm like, I'll throw something together, get there. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Am I going to do legs? Am I going to do arms? Like, I don't know. And then I just end up warming up and foam rolling for like an hour. And then I'm like, oh, I'm just kind of tired now. So I'm going to go home. Like having that plan takes away some of that decision fatigue, because it's one of those things you don't have to think about. It takes one of those stress elements away. The second thing would be to go with a friend or go with someone that you can feel comfortable with and relaxed with. Although for some people this may sort of be an additional stress, but for me, because I will often kind of pull back in a lot of situations and let other people kind of jump forwards, if I'm there with someone, it's an easy case of them initiating things and committing to like a time, to a session that they know they're going to be doing with me, etc. And it changes the dynamic of training to, oh, I'm going to see a friend, train with them, have some fun and kind of relax into the session a bit, opposed to I'm going to just go there a little ball of anxiety by myself, self-implode and just sit and cry in the corner at the end. So it's a different, like, changes that dynamic of the session. And it's finding again like how you want to treat that session, because other times there's been cases where I just need to internally focus and I'll just go there. I'll jump on like the cross train or something just to get moving, get warmed up, and I'll just stick music on, music that I can sort of really just kind of lose myself in. It's like loud as I can and just focus on that, and it gets that different dynamic. And I think music is very powerful because it has that effect on people. Like generations, like years, like we've been making music and dancing and doing this stuff. It has a different effect on the body. And sometimes like I'll go to sessions when I'm in the routine and I might listen to a podcast now, but if I'm not in a good place, I can't listen to a podcast and just train. Like I have to have something else, just like music in, and able to just kind of focus on that.
Oh, good point on the back of that. So I keep seeing this thing, and again, it comes off Instagram, so I don't know how accurate it is. But it's this post it says something like, people with anxiety tend to watch the same films and like series and listen to the same music over and over again because we know what's coming and we like that element of knowing what's. Do you find that you do that?
I know Harry Potter inside and out.
Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful, because I will literally, if anyone could listen to like my Spotify at the same time as me, I will often put the same songs on repeat.
Yeah.
I will, I mean, I will watch, like, especially if I'm just working and I don't really need, or rather I don't want to focus on what's on the telly, but I like a bit of background noise. I've rewatched Friends, Buffy, 24, Suits. Like, I will literally have them just playing over and over and over, so they're always on like my Netflix, like watching now. And everyone's always like, have you not finished that yet? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm on like round 4. I will read the same books. I once did a training session, and the one song I listened to the whole way through was Kosheen in my head the whole way, and I must have been training for about an hour and a half. Mental. But it helps. And I think sometimes you're right, when you're struggling to focus, not having to change your music or find a playlist that might have a couple of songs that you don't really like, and then you're like, oh, I want to skip through them. You just have, it's almost like white noise by the end of the session, isn't it? You don't really,
you just kind of switch off from it, but it's there.
Yeah,
that's really interesting. It's something I've not actually come across before. So even though it's based from Instagram, I see the science behind it.
Yeah. I'm gonna go and do an office poll of all my anxious friends.
Yeah.
Do you do this? I reckon the ones I can think of, they'll say the same.
It's kind of
know what's coming.
Yeah, it's creature comforts as well. It settles our nerves when we have something familiar and something we're comfortable with. So have you got any specific things that you found help you?
Sitting on my own crying. No, I'm kidding. I think one of my big things is going to be, I mean, I do that sometimes, but no. One of my things is very much, if I am feeling super anxious, I will go at a time when the gym makes me feel better. And this might sound really silly, but for me, training in the morning, I really love. So if I'm feeling particularly anxious, I will often make my training session be the first thing that I do.
Yeah.
So on the drive to the gym, I'll have my playlist of whatever, maybe the one same song on repeat, so I can kind of get myself into that place, and then I'm the first thing that I have to focus on.
Yep.
And I don't know whether this is similar for like other PTs and other coaches, but I find that sometimes I need more mental kind of headspace for me first. And then normally I can kind of get myself into a good place by the end of my training session, so that then I can go into work and be the Harriet that they know, not the Harriet that wants to sit in the room crying. So that's one of mine. So, if you as an individual know that you get on better training first thing in the morning, as hard as it can be to wrench yourself out of bed and get it done, I would 100% advocate doing that, especially if it's a time when your gym is quieter. Like, knowing the gyms we train at, evenings are super busy. And I think trying to train when you're feeling anxious, then having to fight to get on equipment and having the noise and being around people. And I don't know why, but I feel like there's a lot of people that train of an evening that like to crash weights about. And I think that can be quite jarring. Again, could just be me speaking, but that extra noise stresses me out more, I think. Yeah. Whereas when the rest of the environment is quite quiet, I find it a lot easier to focus. And then, top plan is always literally have a plan. And tell somebody as well. I'm really rubbish at saying out loud to anybody that I feel anxious. I think because it often then prompts the question, especially with people that don't understand anxiety, they'll go, but what are you anxious about? I don't know. The fact that the sky is blue, the fact that it's a bright day, absolutely Christ only knows. So, because sometimes I think I don't talk about it because I don't know in my own head how to articulate it. So I'm definitely not going to be able to say it out loud. But I have started trying to tell people a little bit more. And even if I just message my friend Ellie, I'll be like, oh God, this is how I'm feeling. And normally she'll tell me to get over myself, which can help, because sometimes or she'll say something that just makes me laugh, and then I'm like, that just kind of, it breaks the ice and gets you out of your own head a little bit, because I think that's one of the biggest problems with anxiety, isn't it? It's that you're never present. You're either stressing about the future or the past, and it's our inability to be in the here and now. Whereas what you need, especially when you're about to go and train and lift heavy things, is to be focused on what you're doing and not worry why you said that comment that you did 6 years ago, and you know, or why everyone on the group chat hasn't responded to your message.
And
those are my things.
You'll probably find that once you get into your session as well, that that kind of stress anxiety will sort of lift itself, because obviously endorphins, but it will take you away from sort of your daily life, which is probably where a lot of that stress and anxiety is building up from. Like at the moment, it's that just got general daily life of COVID, work, stress, all the goings on there. But once you sort of get out and get involved in something and work through your session, you'll probably feel more accomplished, that you've had something, you've got blood flowing, endorphins released, and probably just feel much better.
Absolutely.
So probably pushing through it a little bit is going to be beneficial.
Yeah, no matter how much you want to take the option of staying at home, I think you are 1,000,000% right. If you can just do the hardest part, which is getting out, it becomes a lot better from then on. Even if it's going for a walk, I find we can often procrastinate, can't we? And even with clients that aren't particularly anxious, if they're having a bad day or whatever, they'll be like, I need to walk. But I'm like, just go out now. Just go out, grab your keys, grab your headphones, grab your phone, and just go. And then it'll be, oh yeah, but just go. Because 5 minutes out the door, you can't then panic about all of the things you've got to do, because you're out of the house and you've taken away that element of being able to act on, you know, whatever's stressing you out. So the hardest bit really is getting out. But once you do it, it pulls you out of your own head.
That change of environment will sort of change that headspace and allow you to kind of break any of those anxieties down. And that's probably one of the other things that I would suggest, is actually kind of trying to rationalize with yourself, understanding what element it is you're anxious about. If there is something specific, if it's just a general anxiety, you can try and kind of ask yourself leading questions and see if there is something underlying, but you're just feeling that kind of particular way. But if there is something that you can identify, break it down and just try and be rational with yourself and be like, what is the worst thing that's going to happen if I go to the gym? I might go there and not do anything. Cool. You've at least got out of the house and had a bit of a break. That's going to be beneficial. If you just go to the gym and just do your warm up, you've done something little. Like there's nothing, obviously, like freak events aside, but like there's nothing that bad's going to happen if you just got to break it down just step by step and just set yourself minimal targets and just be like, okay, cool. Like if I just go there and at least just do this little thing, I've at least done something.
Absolutely. I think it's very easy, even when you've got a plan, and it's very easy to tell yourself no, you know, even if it's just, I can't be bothered to train. But then you know that you should, because you've got, you know, for example, with our clients, they've got accountability. They've got a coach that's going to come to their check-in and be like, oh, you've not trained. Are you all right? And I think it can be very easy to then feel guilty for not doing it, because by having that accountability, you do almost feel like you've let somebody down if you don't train. And my kind of general advice to my clients always is start, because if you can get one exercise done or 2 exercises done, or you even do just half the sets, it's better than nothing. And, you know, it's some form of progression, and it's going to give you that mental and physical release that is potentially going to make you feel better. And quite often, I don't know about you, by the time I've got my first exercise done and, you know, my warm up all my sets boxed off, by that point I have normally stopped focusing on whatever was in the back of my head bothering me.
Yeah.
So yeah, the hardest part is often getting started, but if you can do that, then you really are halfway there, aren't you?
Yeah. And if you remember it with your sessions as well, like you don't have to go balls to the wall, especially on the day that you're feeling low and anxiety and like anxious about it.
Yeah.
Like just hit your minimum volume. That's all you need to do. Just hit those base boxes, get the minimum you need to ticked off, and save the progression and the push for the days and the weeks that you're doing much better. Like we're not like professional athletes. We don't have to have like programs that are to the T performed, like do or die, like otherwise our progression is not going to be there to perform in the Olympics. Like, that's it's true at the end of the day. Like we're not.
No, well, I mean, speak for yourself. No, I'm kidding. No, absolutely, we're not. And this is, and I think this then also leads into, you know, a lot of anxieties that people can feel about their dieting side of life, and it's this perfectionist mindset, this all or nothing approach. This, you know, if I can't track accurately, or if I'm over my calories by 50 calories, what's the difference between going over by 50 versus 500? Well, there's a huge difference. And even if you've got a holiday, so you've got like a time bound goal where you want to, you know, lose a couple of kilos or whatever, even so, if you're half a kilo away from that by the time you fly, you're not going to notice once you get there. And our clients aren't bodybuilders. They're not competitors. They have no physical need to be a certain weight, a certain body fat percentage. It's about lifestyle and living a better life, moving easier, you know, getting around a bit more, being able to train harder. It's all great, but it doesn't need to be 100% every single day. And if you're aiming for 100% every single day, you're probably going to come crashing down at some point because it's not sustainable.
I was thinking, like, even when I do work with competitive bodybuilders, like take Rob, for example, when I was prepping him for his competition, like he was training 4 days a week, like, and a lot of that was at a point where we're just ticking those boxes and making sure that he's not going to get injured and not going to fall off and go on a massive binge. It's just making sure that we're sort of chipping away slowly over time and making sure that we're doing like progressively better to where we need to be to get him on stage.
That's interesting. I didn't know he only trained 4 days. I say only, I don't mean only, but I think there's like a misconception that these competitors are all doing 6 days a week. I mean, I've watched some of them in the gym and it looks miserable. Like an hour, you see a lot of the girls, they're like an hour of fasted cardio, then weights, then HIIT. And I'm thinking, Christ, there must be a better way of doing it than that, because that is leading to burnout.
Yeah, and for most of them, it's because they put themselves deeper and deeper into this hole each time they do it, because they need to drop their calories lower, because they need to increase their cardio, because they're not allowing themselves enough time and recovery after the diet, or they go on a massive bender, eat everything, and put on a lot of weight quite quickly, and then like, shit, I need to diet again, and they have to just jump in and smash out the cardio, smash out like low calories, and don't manage it as like a long-term progressive thing. And like, at the moment, Rob's training 3 days a week because we had to drop it because of like his like homeschooling. That's what it's called. Homeschooling his kids and his work still.
Homeschooling Rob and his homeschooling. He's going to listen to me, but like, great guys, you've thrown me under the bus. Oh, bless him. I think one of the points again on like anxiety and managing the return to gyms would be, you don't need to go back in on 5 sessions a week.
Oh no,
I trained religiously 5 times a week up until probably my last training cycle, we came down to 4. And I don't think I'd program myself 5 sessions again. I think I'd say 4 is a very nice sweet spot to add more if you want, or, you know, or do a bit of extra cardio, whatever it is. But I think a lot of people are going to get overexcited, want to go back in on 5 days a week, and then struggle to manage it because they've got all of the time constraints that they had before, but kind of just got used to managing. Whereas now, for not everybody, but a lot of people have had, to some degree, less to manage over the last year. And it could just be that they no longer had a commute because they've been working from home. So to then add in travel time to a gym, the time you spend faffing, chatting to people, etc., then getting your workout done, waiting for equipment, you have to factor in all of that again. And it can then make the situation, I think, more overwhelming. For as much as training at home is not particularly motivating, you're in your living room, you can train in your pajamas, you don't really have to think about the setup. Whereas when you factor in all of the movement that comes with going to a gym and being in a gym environment, I think a lot of us will have forgotten how much time it can actually take.
Oh yeah. But there's just going to be sort of mental stress from that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is going to add and like take some of your recovery capacity.
How many days a week are you going to go and train?
So I normally train before all COVID would be like 6 days a week. Typical kind of like push pull legs split. But I kind of pulled back to like 4-ish. And then I tried to kind of push to 5. I think I'm going to stay around sort of like 4 or 5 sessions. And it may be something like 4 sessions at a gym, maybe a odd like arm session at home, just some additional volume or something. I'm probably going to play around a little bit with fluctuating my frequency of training through mesocycles as well, and have that sort of slight difference in frequency that I'm training body parts through phases of training, because it's been quite interesting dropping down to like 4 or 5 days and having a slightly like different approach with training, and potential needs of that. So yeah.
Oh, exciting. I feel like we've covered so much that was just not in a particular sequence, which I actually really enjoy, because I think that's how yours and my brain works. We start talking about a topic and things come along.
I think we've covered most of it. Like the other things I can like give advice, not give advice on, but say that could be potentially useful for people would be things like journaling, because obviously we're saying like talking to people, and getting those thoughts, like doing some self-exploration, not in that way, Harry. God, dirty mind.
Did you see my eyes light up?
I did, yeah. But in terms of self-exploration of the mind,
yes.
But often we'll kind of think about things, but not actually write it down and properly formulate it, because especially for me, like thought processes will go at 100 miles an hour. Let's think through things, but then it'll be like an hour later and I have no idea what like I've thought about. And it'll be the same when I've gone for like therapy sessions. I'll go like in therapy, like talk through all this stuff. By the time I get home, I'm like, I don't know what happened.
Okay.
I was like, I don't know what I even really like spoke about, or because it's like this major like just brain dump of everything, just like verbally just talking to someone. Then you get back and you're like, I don't really know. Like I had to like send the therapist like messages and be like, can you send me through the notes of the session, because I can't remember what we kind of spoke about, and this stuff you told me to think about through this week. I was like, I don't know what it is. Like, so it's like I need this stuff to look back on.
Yeah.
like if you journaling, noting things down, like it can be useful because it's like it slows the process of the thoughts as well as you're going through it, and then like trying to kind of lead and actually make notes. Like it's just a different process of talking with someone, but you're just doing it yourself. So that can be useful.
Absolutely. Do you know my favorite thing? I did try. I really should get into meditation, and that is my aim. I went for a sports massage a couple of weeks ago, and I was speaking to Olivia, and we were talking about meditation and stuff like that, and we were talking about anxiety. God, I have this conversation quite a lot with people at the minute. And she was saying how it had really helped her, and I was like, yeah, cool. So downloaded the apps, started one. It was literally a 5-minute meditation, got 3 minutes in and I was interrupted. So that's like in my head of, I really want to start doing this, but I will do a lot of breathing exercises. So obviously this stupid piece of gadgetry on my arm does buzz multiple times a day and tells me to do my breathing exercises. But just that process of, I had to Google whether it could pick up on like your anxieties and your heart rate. I feel like we've spoken about this before.
Yeah.
Because some days it seems to go off a lot more than others. A lot of, nice and slow, inhaling through the nose for about 5 seconds, then exhaling through the mouth.
Yeah.
And that has been one of my go-tos for the last few years, help calm me down. Or the other one I used to do when I'd be driving to work is if you put your hand on your stomach, as you breathe in, you push your stomach out. But you can do it without having your hand on your stomach, obviously. But that act of like the opposite can really help. And I used to have to do that every day driving to work because I could feel myself just sweating, getting nervous, palm sweating. And I'm not like a sweaty hand person. And that massively helps me.
Yeah. See, I started meditating when I was about 19, so like seven years ago. And this was when it was not cool.
Such a baby.
But I started when it was not cool, and it was a bit of a woo-woo guru kind of thing to do. And then I spent a good probably a couple of years kind of doing that, and sort of in and out like sporadically.
Yeah.
And I found it really helped. And then it started to get popular, and I just had this kind of like, I don't want to do it now because everyone's telling me to do it. And I'm like, I know I've already done it and I know it helps, but I'm like, everyone thinks it's cool now. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to do it now.
There is such a huge push to journaling, gratitude lists, meditation, yoga. Whereas, I think a lot of us, I absolutely hold my hand up. Absolutely would have thought it was a load of hippie mumbo jumbo.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have thought, even if the breathing exercises, I think the first time my coach told me to do them, I laughed and refused to do them. Because again, like you, it was that knee-jerk reaction to, I'm being told to do this.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Whereas now I can do it slightly more on my own terms. I will find that I'll, take the time to do that. And I have now found the benefit. And especially if I've been indoors working, because that's the biggest thing at the minute, is I've never spent so much time in front of a computer. Not since I had my last, what I would call proper job. And now, like, if I go out for a walk, the minute I get into the fresh air, I'll have to take that time to just kind of do some breathing exercises, just try and really like open up my lungs and kind of go, right, okay, let's breathe. You're not working now. You're in the fresh air. On you go. And it does help. But I think
there's lots of different types of meditation as well. Like you can have walking meditation.
Oh, really?
And it's like the act of meditation is just sort of taking kind of time away and to internally focus. Like it doesn't have to be like sitting legs crossed, hands in the palm of your like in your lap, like doing your ohms and ahs and all that stuff. There's lots of different forms of meditation, like, and just finding some that's right for you. And just like I say, it's just taking that section of time just to like internally like focus and let everything kind of just acknowledging how you're feeling. And and different, yeah, it's just try it and try different types, different forms, and see what works for you, what doesn't.
Absolutely.
So
That's the thing, isn't it? We're now told a lot more, and I think we preach as coaches, we talk a lot more about listening to your body. Whereas I know when I first qualified, nobody ever said, unless you were injured, nobody ever really spoke about listening to your body. It was, you know, if you're dieting, you're going to be hungry. Just suck it up.
Suck it up.
Here are some things that will help, but ultimately you've got to dig in. And to some degree, that's still true. But I think there used to be a lot more pressure, that whether we placed it on ourselves or whatever, to do your 6 training sessions a week. You didn't want to slack off. You didn't want to miss one, because you were always fearful of what would happen if you did.
Yeah.
Whereas now, I think more than ever, nothing's going to happen. Literally nothing is going to happen. And I will say this to my clients all the time. There is a fine line between putting it off because you know you're being lazy versus having kind of a legitimate reason, whether it's your head, your period, your whatever, your work life situation. And there is a difference. And I think we all know internally, if we are just looking for that validation to be lazy and slack off. But in the grand scheme of things, nothing bad is going to happen. Nothing bad's going to happen from some higher calorie days, some lower activity days.
And that's something I've always tried to like recognize myself, but explain to other people. With mental health, it's not a case of you're healthy, you're not healthy. It's a scale, and some days you're going to be further along and like more anxious, more depressed, like not feeling as great, and other days you might feel a little bit better. And it's just trying to slowly kind of tip where you are on that scale just to feeling better more often. And if you can do little things that will help you to push closer to that, then good. And that's the exact same process kind of take with clients. Like if there was a quote like optimal of what we could do, what we're doing is taking a client where they are now and trying to push them just a little bit further. It's not a case of we take you where you are now and drop you right at this other end with everything that's completely optimal, and that's what you need to do or die. It's like, no, just kind of slowly just improve, add one more thing in, slowly just sort of tip you up that scale and push you closer to where you want to be. And that's all you can do. And it's just trying to feel better and ultimately just enjoy life as much as you can.
I like that. And I think that's a very nice place to finish.
Yeah, I think so.